Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 176 of So What's Been Happening. Tonight, it's another Tuesday night special. It is the 10th of June, 2025, just to document that in history. Lots been going on, that's for sure. There is plenty going on in gig world, which is really nice. And it's great to see so many artists out there releasing music at this time as it gets a little bit colder. The open fires are on. But I urge you, please get out and see some local acts, most importantly. All the big acts starting to come to Australia. The dollar's looking good for them. The dollar not so good for us local Australian acts. But anyway, everyone pushes on and puts out great music in amongst that time. So I just want to touch on a couple of gigs that we have got coming up that I do know about. So let's bring up a couple. This week, it actually kicks off in Melbourne. This is a celebration, first anniversary of the Hardest Line, the story of Midnight Oil. That is at the Odeon in Richmond, and it's a fundraiser for benefits support act. So please get along and check that one out. Also, we have got the Where's Jimmy Melbourne tour, which is 13th, 14th, and 15th, 3 venues around Melbourne. So some great supports in amongst that one as well. Wilson, a new artist, she just has released some music. So I get out to the Punters Club, which is a reformed Punters Club, which is awesome to see. Riff Raff. So if you're into your AC/DC, these guys are one of the best cover bands around, featuring Willie J and his crew in Riff Raff. So get out and support that one at Mimo Music Hall. Great sound, selling well, which is awesome to see. And the Maggie Pills. This is all Friday the 13th. So get out and see this one at the Curtain. What else have we got? All right, CCTV, which is Courtney. Please get out and see them and Ambrose. That's at a free gig at Luley Tavern. So I'm giving you some paid gigs and free gigs, which is really nice. And also haven't forgotten about the Sydney Siders, given that we've got a Sydney band on tonight. Get out and see this one, the Detonators, Spurs for Jesus at the Like Art Bolo. So another Friday the 13th special. And then just quickly ripping through, if you're into your DJs and music, DJ Crispy, who's on PBS in Melbourne, is doing a set at Luley Tavern. That's a Saturday special. And we are back to the Beast for Cannon and the Vors. Can't forget this one. Ashley Naylor is doing a Jimi Hendrix set featuring the Are You Experienced album, which will be unbelievable. So get out and see this one at the Cherry Bar. So Ash Naylor, Jimi Hendrix at Cherry Bar. You won't get a better gig in Melbourne than this. And we haven't forgotten the Sydney Siders again. So the VBs, Dark Clouds, the Strikeouts. This one, get out and see that one at Ryan's Hotel. All right, finally, Sunday, the RecLink Cup is on again. We can't forget that. It's one of the great fundraisers for Radio World out there with the Megahertz versus the Espy Rock Dogs. So that'll be great. And there's plenty of gigs in and around Melbourne at the end of this to go and support, which is really nice to raise some extra money for some of these venues and stuff around town. And then it's your Sunday special, Blackbirds FC, with a new lineup also of Baker, Maloney and Adams. So get along to the pretty relatively cheap one for you for Sunday. So that rounds it off. There's plenty to do out there on a Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've given you plenty to do. But tonight, it is all about the Electorate from Sydney. So we're going to bring a couple of the boys up from the band, Josh and Nick, and have a little chat about their musical journey. So let's bring Josh up first.
How you doing?
Welcome, Josh, first and foremost, for episode 176 of So What's Been Happening.
Thanks for having us. Well, thanks for having me.
No worries. All right. Can't forget Nick. Let's bring him up as well. How are you, Nick? Welcome.
I'm good, Aaron. How are you? Hey, Josh.
Good. Really nice to jump into your lounge rooms tonight. What else would you be doing on a lazy Tuesday night? Let's face it.
That's right. Staying out of the cold.
It is a little cold. How is it up there in Sydney at the moment?
Freezing.
Yeah, winter's bit.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, it sure has.
It's snowing on the Blue Mountains, and
is it really?
We're feeling it. Yeah, in Orange it is. Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. Well,
Yeah, a little
cold
further. It's yeah, it's cold.
All right, really exciting to have you guys with us tonight. And just a little shout out to Eliot as well. Let's have a be nice to get him on eventually and have a chat about the three-piece as the band. So, guys, let's flash back a little bit. I'm not going to play your latest album and talk about that quite yet, but we're just going to touch on, maybe we'll kick off with Josh on one of your first memories of music as a youngster. Where were you and kind of what was playing and what was it playing on?
I reckon I was in Melbourne because I lived in Melbourne as a kid for a few years, and it's gonna date me, but I'm dated. It's watching Countdown, I reckon, and kind of looking up at the TV and going, "Oh my God, is that a thing that you can do? And if so, how do I do that?" And I think it was just like, it's a very early memory, and there's no correlation to seeing anything live at that particular point in time. But soon after that, I think I was probably just aware of tunes, and started primary school, started getting into the Beatles in a really big way, and grew up at such an amazing time in music in terms of really weird, experimental, wonderful things being popular, and so having really good access to a wide variety of different tunes on the radio, and just becoming a mega fan. And then kind of starting to learn an instrument and starting to write and all the rest of it. But fandom, probably like the rest of us, right?
Yeah, very nice. So very much a visual, plus obviously an audio medium as well. But what was it visually that kind of got you? Was there a particular instrument or a look or a band that you kind of remember when you first saw them on the screen, or was that a little bit later in life?
It's just a whole kind of, this looks fun. And I'm, I wasn't then, and I'm not particularly now, and particularly outgoing, oh wow, razzle dazzle kind of guy. So I don't know what it was about it, but I guess it was the whole thing. I guess it was the sound and the vision, and a way of having fun, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. All right, what about for you, Nick? Where was it? What was playing, and what was it playing on?
It's an excellent question, Aaron. It was similar to Josh in that Countdown was a big part of all of our lives. There was music. My grandparents liked music. My mother liked music. And I sort of was fascinated. You'd sort of go to fates, school fates and stuff like that. And from a really young age, I was fascinated in, little singles, 45 records, staring at the labels and all that sort of stuff. So that was kind of the first seeds of, an obsession, I guess. And Countdown, watching Countdown, and music was everywhere. The radio. I remember kind of, one of my earliest memories is being driven home by my mum late at night in the back of the car, in one of those sort of car kids kind of seatbelts. Were from the 70s. It looked like something that used to wear on a roller coaster or something. And the AM radio would be playing after midnight, and I remember hearing "I'm Not in Love" by 10cc in a half dream state, and kind of really kind of, I'll never forget that feeling. And every time I hear that song, I get that same feeling. So that, and sort of watching Countdown and watching bands, they were miming, but they'd have sort of camera pans around the whole stage, so you could see what the drummer was doing, for example.
Yep.
How he was using his limbs and all that sort of stuff. So that kind of, that got me, I think. I thought, oh yeah, I want to do that.
Fair enough.
It took a few years, but I was pretty determined, and I just taught myself based on what I saw on Countdown.
Yeah, nice. So musically, self-taught, boys, or was it something that obviously you did and went through the training of it in a particular instrument? What was it for you, Nick? Did you say you picked it up yourself, or got in amongst it yourself? I did pick it up myself.
I was kind of, I wanted to, there was a couple of years from 8 to 10 or something where I was thinking about it a lot. I remember my mother asking me if she, if I wanted to learn an instrument around that age. And I said drums, and she said, "What's your second choice?" And
Fair enough.
And I didn't have one. So I just plucked one out of my ass, and I said violin. And I learned violin for 2 years, and I hated it. Really hated it. But I did it. And then when I said I don't want to do this anymore, I then one Christmas went to the kitchen drawer and grabbed a pair of chopsticks and set up some cushions. How I, saw drums being set up on Countdown, and just sort of learned a Roxy Music record that my auntie and uncle had over the Christmas holidays. And I'm an only child, so doing things like that, honing in on something for days and weeks was just, it wasn't like, it was just what I'd do anyway,
And just on that, how big was the kit from the kitchen assortment?
I was pretty basic, I sort of had I had like, I don't know if the kids out there remember the beds used to have springs on their their bases.
Yeah, that
was my hi-hat.
Oh wow!
And then I just sort of had my snare cushion, and then that'd do me. And I just I'd be I'd be sitting, but I'd be using my foot as well. And I just remember spending an entire weekend trying to figure out the kick pattern in Madness Our House. It's got a bit of a kind of got a bit of a skip to it. So when you put your right hand down, and when you pull it up, that's when you hit the kick drum. This took me quite a few hours of coordinating that, and it felt like a miracle when I figured it out. So yeah, it was a really time-consuming process, but I got there in the end.
I bet it was, but you're fair to say
I was determined to do it.
Your attention to detail was obviously there too in the setup of the kit. Very impressive at that age.
Yeah.
What about for you, Josh?
I had piano lessons in primary school for a couple of years. It was a bit of a Beatles tragic. So the Beatles songbook, which I might even have. Anyway, look, it was one of those books that you got, and it had all the chords to the songs and stuff in that. So I started on piano for a while, and then I remember watching something with a guy who was singing and playing keys at the same time, and was just stuck behind the keyboard. And I remember thinking, oh, that's not going to work. I don't think that's for me. And so I switched to guitar and had some guitar lessons in high school, but kind of they were a loose reference. I didn't always do my homework, and I think it very quickly just became something that I could, make stuff up on in this, and find a way of doing things. And I've never been particularly good at, sort of learning to play other people's songs really properly, but I've been okay at finding little bits and pieces that I can string together and kind of, make work and make sense of and make sounds with. Because, I think once again, it was that thing where we grew up with such a cool array of sounds in the songs that we were listening to. It was always like there was an interest in not just melody, but kind of in atmosphere and in, I don't know, not just bar chords, not just sort of, straightforward stuff, which is all good and fine and fantastic. But just not always the reference point that I was kind of latching onto, I guess. I don't know.
Sure. And visually, just before we go and play a visual, back in the days, it was Rage and those kind of morning shows, obviously Countdown, where you got to see the artists and, is that how they do it? Or is that how they play it? When did that, that kind of drifted away for quite some time, and we got to almost just listen and then kind of make it up and hope it's like this. And then you have some of those moments later in life of like, oh, is that how it's played, when you actually got to see them again. Did you have any of those moments, both as drummers and guitarists, that it didn't kind of pan out, or you were playing it very differently in amongst your younger years? Josh?
Oh, look, constantly, I would say. And still, still finding things and going, oh, okay, is that how it's done? And look, it's much easier now, thanks to YouTube and all the rest of it. You can find somebody somewhere who's discovered exactly what it is in most instances.
Or a 6-year-old kid now doing it on
yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Nick and I, and Eliot, we've all had this discussion about the intense ability that a lot of younger players have coming through these days.
Incredible. It's incredible. Because, it's exactly like you say. The YouTube tutorials are there if you want to learn to play like the masters, and
play it right, explore.
And there doesn't have to be. I mean, I'm sure there is growing up in public still, but there doesn't have to be if you don't want to. And I've seen young bands, come straight out of uni onto a stage and start playing like Weather Report or something. And we weren't like that.
We're still not like that.
At the university band competitions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like really kind of not amateur, but
not nearly as adept.
Sweet. Dare I say sweet? No, we don't play like that. It's true, because we decide not to. But I'd say after 40 years of doing it, we have a confidence. Yeah, so it's kind of amazing to see young people do it that have really kind of have access, I guess, to that kind of level.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's
cool.
It's
really different.
Definitely. All right, we're going to touch on the brand new album, but in 2020, you also released the debut album, or LP, which was "Don't Have Time." You don't have time to stay lost. That's an interesting title in its.
Short one too.
Yeah, one of those long ones. What's it get shortened to on the set list?
Look, we don't have a song that's called that, thankfully. So it would. What would it?
Even better.
It wouldn't be Lost, because we've got a song called Lost at Sea. So Stay, I guess. I don't know. What do you reckon, Nick?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I never really thought about it as being a long title, but it is, isn't it?
A little bit. Got the point across, though.
Yeah, it did. It did. The other thing is, we sort of had half of that record was kind of written when we were, like had songs on there that were 30 years old or something. And then the other half was new stuff from the time. So yeah, we sort of had a lot of time and a lot of titles and a lot of different, ideas around the whole thing, sort of just bubbling away.
So on that one, on a supposed debut LP, how the hell do you pull together what you had in the bank for 30 years, put just a couple in there, and then put some new ones in there? How was that process for you guys, kind of putting together that LP, that what's going to be your sound for moving forward?
Cathartic, I think.
True. Yeah.
Was probably
unfinished business on some of them.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think, I think when we reformed, it's always been a sort of one step at a time process, where we did a Reformation gig that was theoretically a one-off, and we got off stage and the three of us went, that was really fun. Let's, should we keep doing this? And everyone thankfully went, yeah, let's keep doing it. So the album sort of became the next logical thing to do, insofar as sort of clearing the decks and paying, it felt to me, and maybe to you too, Nick, a little bit like, yeah, this is something we've got to do, and a little bit of unfinished business. But because we're obsessive tinklers, I think we just had that thing of kind of going, look, just because that's how they were then doesn't mean they have to be that way now. So there was a fair bit of rejigging of some of the older songs, and then there was some that we just left alone. And it was kind of through that process that really late in the stage when we were mixing the record that we turned to each other and went, this feels like something new, despite having a really long legacy. And that's when we decided to change the name, and Nick came up with the Electorate, and we went, oh my God, that's a great name that kind of intersects between some of the political stuff that we had on the record and most of the personal stuff that we have on the record, and just kind of made sense. So it feels to me, by design, actually feels to me more like our debut record than You Don't Have Time to Stay Lost does, because I think that's kind of a full stop at the end of a sentence, whereas this feels like the next paragraph kind of thing.
Awesome. Great to hear. And 4 years of work, or 4 or 5 years of work, putting it together in amongst that. Did you get going straight after that last EP and work through what else you had? How long did this album really take to come together for you guys?
Oh, a good few years. We were working really hard on it. We were doing it every week. Getting together every week, and some songs came together really quickly and remained fairly unchanged, and some were like, as they always can be, you just keep going back and going, there's something there. It sounds kind of shit, it's not, or not. I'm overstating it, but sounds like it's just not really coming together, and I don't know why. We just kept playing it, stuff like that. It was really interesting that, and then in some cases when we were working with Wayne Connolly, he sort of, gave us the final piece of the puzzle of some things, where we were still sort of going, even when we were tracking it, sort of going, there's just something, what is it? What's, where's the strength lie, and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it did take a while. It took probably 3 of the 5 years, of sort of working fairly solidly on it, I reckon.
It's probably also that thing that, because we don't do this very often, and when we do it, we kind of have, we throw everything that we can at it in the capacity that we have, which, doesn't always include touring, but it does include trying to just get everything right. Which means that even though the record was probably finished this time last year, it just takes a long time to line everything up. And, we're working with some good people as well to help us, do things like chat to you. And everyone just, it takes time to set all of that stuff up. So
sure does.
Yeah, hopefully the next one doesn't take quite so long. We'll see.
Yes, that's what we all hope for. More music and quicker. Get back out there. Exactly. But we're going to play a little bit from The Great Divide. Let's give you a little sneak teaser.
We were lovers, we were mates, dancing on tectonic plates. When they shifted and we fell straight past hell into the great divide between what I feel inside and what I'll say when you ask if I'm okay. There was flint and there was fire, sift through ashes of desire, smothered by a lack of care. Didn't want to
beautiful. I'm going to leave you hanging a little bit there, so make sure you get back on YouTube and check that one out. But beautiful clip too. Tell us a bit about putting that one together, and how important is a clip now for you guys? And back in the old days, I felt like I was just kicking back, watching a bit of old school rage there.
That's nice to hear.
That is nice to hear.
Yeah, it was a really lovely experience making it, because, you know, Nick and I are in Sydney and Eliot's in Adelaide, and we had this experience whereby, you know, we couldn't all be together in the same place at the same time, but we had this footage that Eliot's folks had of their honeymoon in, I think, 1961. And so Nick and I were projecting, you know, we were filming it and, you know, projecting it onto ourselves and our instruments and stuff, and watching Eliot shine out kind of through his through this footage of his mum and his dad. And it was really sweet. It was a really lovely experience. It was bittersweet, but it was, you know, it was, yeah, a really rich and rewarding one. What was your take, Nick?
Oh, well, exactly that. It felt like he was there when we were doing that filming, you know. Yeah, his spirit was definitely there. And I just love that footage. I just love it. And I was so glad, you know, that he agreed for us to use it. Yeah. And he edited it as well. Yeah. So it ended up being, you know, another collaborative kind of effort, despite the fact that, you know, we had distance between us. So yeah, it was a great thing to be able to do in lieu of being able to play.
And ironically, the song title kind of sums up a whole lot of the things that went on during that time as well. But it's a beautifully shot clip, and
thanks.
One of those ones that just kind of like a real motion jerker, you know, in amongst but everything sits really nicely balanced and just great little cross transitions into other scenes and stuff. And it's beautiful. So well done on that one.
Glad to hear it. Thank you. Thanks.
It sits at track number 4 on the album. That's always an interesting one, track lists and how they're put together, but we'll worry about that one a little bit later. But we're going to touch on, let's kick off straight on to the next one. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry about that. All right, we're going to move to another one, Peace, Love and Kindness. This is a little change up. I'm interested in hearing about this one after.
Wanted to cry. Another election night, another shift to the right. Why do the sins of the past justify a new path to another bloodbath? I know that's simplistic, naive, unrealistic, but let's just all stay here for a while. Tell me what is so wrong? What is so wrong? Have we all gone mad? What is so wrong with peace, love and kindness? What is so wrong with changing with difference? Why is that so bad? Oh, I wanna just live in hope. Ignore the ignorant joke. Decency is a cloak. Why is that so hard to do? To find a common value. Quality's nothing new. I might just be tripping. Sarcasm is dripping, but I need to fight that impulse now. Tell me what is so wrong? What is so wrong? Have we all gone mad?
go. That's a great one, guys, and the footage is fantastic. It's just ties in beautifully. What the whole world of acceptance, and there's some beautiful characters that make up this fine world of ours, and such a great song. Just talk to us about the song coming together, and then the clip where that come from, and tying those two beautiful parts together, the audio and the visual component.
Sure. And thanks for the kind words. That's really sweet. The riff was a really persistent, annoying little thing that hung around for a really long time.
Catchy.
Yeah. And it's funny, like Nick was talking about that sort of, that idea of, it being something that you kind of stick with. I think there's a lot of stubbornness in, what we do sometimes, because you hold on to something and you go, oh, I know it's there. And the pieces of the puzzle, it's all, it's a really fun thing to have to crack. And we went round and round and round in circles. And thankfully, Nick and Eliot were really patient with me, because I kept bringing in different melodic ideas. And like a lot of things that you do, you start with one thing and you go through a whole bunch of doubt and you come back to it and you go, actually, we went full circle. I kind of feel like
we didn't turn into Jazz Odyssey, but it was getting there. It was kind of
had its moments.
It was all, we tried several different ways of doing it, and that's where the sort of the experience thing comes in handy, because you really can't afford to get too embarrassed about these things, because it can be kind of embarrassing, kind of just trying things and knowing you can fail, and it could sound, just you could fall flat on your ass. But that is kind of the thing, That's kind of one of the joys. And we did, like you said, we did come full circle, and we just sort of did it how we originally did it, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's how some of the magic happens, that you go and spend all this time trying to change something that was so beautiful to start with, to come back to. It's great. Who ultimately acknowledged that first one, or that first bit was where it kind of ended up in the end?
I think, look, I'd gone through a couple of different sort of verse ideas. The chorus was really persistent in terms of the melody, but in terms of the feel, it really was the last song that we recorded with Wayne. We were pretty I was pretty shattered, end of the day. And Wayne Connolly, who was really great at just being able to go, that's not quite right, we need to tweak this thing. He just changed it up with regards to Eliot's bass playing, simplified what I was doing, tapped into Nick's ability to just be a powerhouse, but a subtle powerhouse. And that really that saved the song, I reckon, in a lot of ways, being able to do that. And then it was just a case of, tweaking the lyrics. Like Nick said, there is like, for me, I was a bit nervous about this one, putting it out into the world in terms of the lyrics, because it's simple, but I'm really conscious of that being a really important sentiment that is told with the degree of respect and simplicity that it needs, but also with the kind of, I don't know, approachability that it needs, the universality, I guess, of what we were trying to get at, which is just this notion of just let everybody be who they want to be, and let everybody else and everybody else who has a problem with that just get out of the way. So the clip was a sort of a natural marriage of that. Yeah. And we were really lucky that time hasn't always been on our side with regards to clips and stuff, but I think it was one of those situations where I was at Mardi Gras marching in support of someone I love, and I'd been able to do that for a few years, and there's this beautiful moment in between when you arrive and when you set off, where everyone's just hanging out, and it's a little bit, the first time it happened, I felt as though I was, obvious pun, but Dorothy waking up in Oz, and the world is full of color, and there's all this life and beauty and joy. So I wandered around with my phone probably for about an hour, and had the good fortune of finding a whole bunch of people who were happy to say yes without even hearing the song, but just hearing the kind of elevator pitch of what we were trying to do and who we were and what we were, what we felt really strongly about.
Yep.
And then once again, gave the footage to Eliot and said, please make something of this. And he did just a tremendous job at piecing it all together and editing into the clip that we have. And watching it again then, which is the first time I've watched it in a couple of months. It's full of joy and pride. And I'm really glad we got to do it all.
Yeah, it's beautifully done.
Me and my partner last year, I keep referring back to it too. Not the Mardi Gras, just that the film clip's done at, but the one before.
Yeah.
We were with a friend of hers, best friend of hers, whose partner was part of organising the Mardi Gras, and we'd been to the art gallery. We were sort of walking up towards just towards Oxford Street at about 4 in the afternoon or something.
Perfect.
And the vibe, but like it wasn't on. It wasn't on. It was just everyone was just sort of hanging out, and like all the streets were closed off, but there wasn't any floats, and there wasn't it wasn't all the big lights and everything. It was just people hanging out, and it was a great vibe.
Yeah.
It was a really good vibe for blocks. We were like walking just for blocks, and it really hit me. It really hit me how cool it was.
Sure.
I kind of just wanted to be there for hours and hours. It was great.
That's it.
I'm so glad you captured that.
Yeah. Oh, look, so am I. And look, it's a real honor and privilege for us as straight whiteys to be able to get up there and go, hey, we are 100% here for the community. It's so important that it's very easy for people to not stand up for stuff they believe in, and it's really great when people do. So I think that kind of goes to the heart of the song as well. So it was great.
Yeah, and a beautiful line that would make a killer T-shirt. What is so wrong with peace, love, and harmony? After all, it's a killer line. So get them out there, get them on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
All right. The album is called By Design, which was a really interesting title. Was that always the title, or was it the work in progress that finally became the title by default?
We had a few.
We had a more complicated title.
I'm glad you ran 2 words.
And I stuck my hand up as I have. That seems to be my role in the band, to sort of just be up the back and just go too complicated.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's how it happened. We had, a wordy kind of title. I said, I ran it by a few people. They just went, I don't even know what that means. I went, okay, all right, okay. Noted. We simplified it. And I think Eliot, it's one of Eliot's lines.
Yeah.
And
out of Face of a Giant.
it was a really quick transition. It was like, great.
Yeah, just made a lot of sense. And I think it tied into what we wanted to do with the record, right? Like where we'd kind of set out with this really this agenda to keep things simple despite our better some of our inclinations some of the time. So to kind of nail it to the wall and say, this is what it is, this is what we mean, this is what we want, and to sort of acknowledge the intent behind it was it just once again was really serendipitous and made a lot of sense. So it was great.
And let's touch on album covers, because this one is a ripper, if I might say so myself. But tell us a little bit about where this one come together and where did it form from?
Look, I put the artwork together for all of our stuff actually so far, and it's a really fun, enjoyable process, and it's a really collaborative one because it's I bounce ideas off the guys, and Nick will testify that we went through quite a lot of different ideas to get this. And I think when the album changed title as well, when we worked out that, the previous title wasn't going to be the end title, once again, it helped to simplify it. And I had this roll of film that my daughter had processed, actually, that I'd photographed years and years and years ago. And on it, with that image that's on the screen, you've got kind of a half black, half building image. And the building's superimposed over the end of a roll of film where you get that sort of bleed mark.
Yep.
And I presented that as an earlier inclination, as an early sort of draft to the guys. And Nick very pointedly and accurately pointed out that it looked a lot like the cover to the RIYL's album, Quasimodo's Dream, which, is a fantastic thing to reference, but not necessarily a conversation you want to keep having over and over again. So because there's references to Sydney in one of the songs on the record, I was kind of drawn to the simplicity of this building down in Circular Quay down at called which is the AMP building, or the old AMP building. And we tried it with the Sirius building, which is another Sydney icon that was referenced, and it just it just didn't work as well. So we went back to that, and then the two holes, they kind of happened by accident, because I was designing it all in Photoshop, and I'm not, I'm a bit primitive in Photoshop sometimes. So it was an accident, but a happy one. And just, once again, it's that jigsaw puzzle element where you just kind of keep chipping away until you feel like something works. And we were really lucky. I mean, I was really lucky that the guys were really patient and supportive and kind of going, it's nearly there. It's nearly there. But yeah, when we got onto this, it was like, okay, we're in the right territory here. And there's echoes of the previous album's artwork insofar as there being kind of a mirror division. I think it speaks to the band in a lot of different ways. And it's just it's a nice aesthetic. So glad you like it. Thanks.
It's great.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It was very exciting when we got the box of records,
Yeah.
and got to see it, and it's like, oh wow. I mean, that is kind of always the best bit. But it was really cool.
Yeah.
Well done, Josh.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for all the help.
That final unboxing that you get to do when it's was it exactly how you kind of wanted it in the end, after much deliberation amongst yourselves? Yep. Great to hear.
Yeah.
Super relieved, super proud.
All right. Well, just before we play The Face of a Giant, we're just going to obviously make a touch on Lovers Fiction Records to give them a quick shout out for putting this together. It's awesome to have a great support of a record label for sure, and also to Chris Familton for connecting the dots with myself and you guys. So thanks Chris, for everything you're doing.
Matt.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. Really nice human beings too, which, goes such a long way. Working with great people makes it all just so much easier, I reckon. So it's great. Thank you, guys.
And before we play the last track, let's touch on the big launch too. Saturday, the 5th of July. It's a good lineup, that's for sure. Rubbernecker and Restless Leg supporting. This is an exciting time to be in Sydney at Waywoods.
Thanks.
Yep, we can't wait for that. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be brilliant. Rubbernecker, really odd, twisted, fantastic bunch, as are Restless Leg. Great people, great songs, great bands. So, it's going to be a really lovely night. And, starting to feel the excitement and feel like, oh my God, this is actually, this is kind of a momentous event. We played a lot of gigs in our life, but we don't play many album launches. And it's, it's pretty significant. I'll do my best not to cry at some point in the night.
Me too. Yeah.
Crying's all part of the deal. That's exactly what we want to see. Plenty of emotion.
Get a bit overwhelmed by it all sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Lots of blood, sweat, and tears, and plenty of hours have gone into creating these beautiful things that are albums. And when they get out there and you get to release your little baby into the world, it's really exciting. So look forward to also what's next for you guys. let's
Thanks.
not push too
Thank
far
you,
ahead.
Aaron.
We've got to put this one out there first. But
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
excited.
No
Face
pressure.
of a Giant. Tell us a little bit about this one. Where did this kind of come together in amongst the set list? As far as what I'm probably getting at is in amongst the recordings, the writings for these songs. Where did this kind of one sit? Was it one that you had early? Did it come late? What was the story?
Well, this is one of the ones where we were making a conscious effort. Like I was saying before, I'm the guy that's standing up the back going, simplify, simplify. We're all on the same page pretty quickly with this one in terms of doing, this is going to be the one that, you know, we're not going to embellish. You know, we're going to try being as simple as possible. And certainly my part is, you know, there's no tricky dicky stuff going on. None, like there usually is.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the example on the record of what we were trying to achieve that was different to, you know, it was a conscious effort to sort of be different to what we'd normally done. And people sort of heard that, I think, when this was the first one we put out. And that's right, isn't it? Off the record.
Yeah.
The first one we put out. Yeah. And yeah, people were instantly kind of like, "Oh, wasn't expecting that." It's like, awesome.
Yes,
right.
It's nice. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
And it sits quite low in the list. It's actually song number 10, the last one on the album.
It is on the digital one. We've got two versions of the record. We've got the digital list and we've got the LP list. And I think it's second on the LP.
It is second, yeah. That's right.
Second on the LP, but last on the CD. So we're messing with the formula.
It works both ways.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's touch on that. Who decides the final listing and that headache, endless headache of what goes next?
Nick cracked
round discussions with the band, you know, democracy all the way. Yeah, it was kind of, we sweated over it. And we sweated over two. You know, it was kind of like we had two that were absolutely brilliant. It's like, how are we going to do this? And we worked hard on both of them too. We've got, you know, the parameters of vinyl are kind of one thing, and we did have a concept to kind of do a locked groove on each side of the vinyl. So, you know, that was the thinking in terms of what song would be good. We had one song that we wanted to, we sort of went, that's going to make a great lock groove. So we should make that the last song.
Yep.
But then Josh had the idea of there's another lock groove for side one. Okay, we'll put that on the end of side one. So I think we came up with the digital track list first. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and then we kind of tailored another one around the concept of doing the record.
Perfect.
But yeah, I mean, Face of a Giant was also just one of those tunes. There's three tunes on the record, that kind of all fell into the rehearsal space, almost not completely fully formed, but really close to it. And Face of a Giant was one of the last ones that we wrote, and we wrote it all together. And it's just one of those ones that, like Nick said, was really great to just kind of put out as an indicator that, you know, we've still got a few new tricks up our sleeve, which is nice.
And just reading through the track list, really interesting one I came across straight away was the first track being called End, which I thought was really clever to not just put it at the end, like it obviously supposed to be.
Yeah.
So well done on that one. But we'll get intrigued a little bit more as people, there's a little one for people to check out when they get in amongst the song End as well. But we're going to play Face of a Giant right now.
I lie awake and wait for her, a ghost to hold my hand and say it's fine. Connected to the one, the two beyond. the world, it turns, it falls. The sun, another shape, another line. Connected to the one, the two, the way we live our lives is serpentine. By design. Like the sound of a siren luring me to you. And the face of a giant staring down the room. I lie awake and wait for her, a ghost to hold my hand and say it's fine. And when we are the one, the two, we step into the end and lost divine. By design. Like the sound of a siren luring me to you. And the face of a giant staring down the room. The sound of a siren. The sound of a siren. And the face of a giant. The face of a
Apologies. Sorry about that. Who would have known that Josh
and you're back.
changed cameras in amongst that and just ran a battery flat, so we had to do a quick switch over. So we got to hear all of Face of a Giant, which is a really cool song. They're all quite different just in amongst the 3 tracks I've heard there. There's a lot of different feel in amongst the whole album. Where to next, boys? That's the exciting part.
That is.
Yeah, it is really exciting.
Wish I knew.
We haven't started, but we're going to get to it.
Right.
We are anticipating, what we're going to do next, and it's going to be cool.
It's really exciting.
We've got at least we've got 10 of these songs on this new album that we're going to be consciously trying not to sound like. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, well, you've definitely got a few albums in there to play with and extend out a little bit more, which is really great.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a few different trajectories to explore. It's it's really exciting actually.
Yep. All right. Well, we wish you luck with the new album by design. It's out now, everyone. So get out there and get amongst it. We're going to put a couple of links in the bio, so to speak, and make sure you can get out and to see this one. Get this one in your diary. July the 5th, Saturday night. Get up to Waywoods, and hopefully we might get a crew from Melbourne up to come and see you guys in amongst this. So what we can do.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Just one last one. What are you listening to at the moment, boys? Is there something that you've kind of dug a few crates in the record department, and what are you listening to?
You go first, Nick.
Oh God, you okay?
I'm literally putting you on the spot.
I'm listening to the new Pulp album. Actually, I'm really enjoying that. Yeah, it's funny. I have a thing for like people, bands who sort of come back and a bit like us, kind of play to their strengths because they can sort of see in the rear view what their strengths are, I guess, and it really works well. Like I really like that. I like the kind of the maturity kind of thing. So I'm listening to a lot of stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, the new Pulp album is really good.
Okay, get onto it. All right, Josh.
Oh, and the new Ty Segall album too. Sorry, that's the other one that I absolutely love. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. It's kind of poppy. Really, really good. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Was that my only friend? My best friend. That single that he released, was it last year, with the clip of it looked like a camera on the back of his dog. That was killer.
Right. Yeah.
Just love it.
That's great. Yeah.
I got a bit obsessed with the new Horse Girl records. I think they're out of Chicago. There's a whole lot of Flying Nun stuff going on there. There's a whole lot of it's weird. Maybe I think they're pretty young, and I think maybe they've just grown up listening to and I'm making this up, but maybe their parents' record collection, and just hearing a lot of the stuff that we were listening to back when we were a little bit younger. And so it's always fun hearing those things come back for a second go, having a whole lot of the sort of Flying Nun prism that I feel like that's sort of passed through. But there's a band from Sydney called Moderate Lovers, whose new single is great. Nick and I saw a great band called Team Building the other week. The album by Quivers, I absolutely adore, and I think that's just one of those records that is. It sounded like a classic album to me the minute I heard it, and so I still listen to that on a pretty regular basis. There's so much.
Shout out to the Melbourne crew. Glenn Benny from the Underground Lovers solo album is fantastic. It's really, really great. Largely instrumental, but really melodic, and one of my albums of the year for sure. It's so good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, you should listen to that.
I think that really heartening thing about still doing what we're doing at the age that we're doing at is seeing how many other people are still doing it as well, and how much amazing music everyone's creating. I really think that everyone is just, there's so much good music. It's really exciting actually to see that, to hear that, to be a part of that, and just to be a fan of it as well. Is just it's such a rewarding thing. It's great. So thank you also for providing an avenue for us all to
thanks, Darren.
We're doing and reach new people. It's really great. And 20 that's watching and is interested and had their curiosity sparked by this, thank you as well, because it's great. We love doing what we're able to do. We're really lucky that we can do it. So thanks.
Yeah, well, just on the behalf of the music community and the punters that are out there seeing gigs, I'd like to thank you guys for doing what you do, the Electorate. Been punching out for plenty of years now in amongst multiple bands, you boys. So I was a big fan of Big Heavy Stuff, and super exciting to see plenty of the bands that you both have played in over time. And I just love the fact that you're able to transport us to a place of where we forget about life's troubles for a while and come in amongst a band, and you get to play with supports as well that become community. Which is really exciting. So just keep doing what you do. I know you don't do it for the money these days. That's the sad part. It's all for love, mostly. If you make any money out of it to buy yourself a beer, that's a bonus. But so I'd like to I'd like to put everyone on notice from the music community. Get on Bandcamp and try and gift on Bandcamp Friday. Gift someone an album or at least a song through to someone. And there's so much mix in amongst this album, so I'd love to get that out there for many people. And I'm sure you're going to find plenty of new fans, and look forward to trying to get up there on July the 5th. I think it's 5th. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
And in amongst that, try and get you guys back on the road again, and down to Melbourne, ideally, to get in amongst the Melbourne scene
We'd
again.
love that. Yeah, and if there's any bands in Melbourne that reckon we'd be a good fit, let us know. We're keen. We're just not very we're not plugged in anymore. So that's really what stops us in a lot of ways. So if there's anyone out there going, hey, you guys would be a good fit, let us know. And we'd love to be there. We'd love to play in Melbourne again. It's great. Perfect.
Well, one guy is very good at that is Famo, Chris Familton. Put together a lineup, mate, and get the boys down here. Fill the van, and we'll put on a gig somewhere. So great to connect, guys. Wish you well with the album, and I'd love to connect with you again and talk about some more music one day.
Sounds great.
Right. Good.
Cheers, Josh.
Thanks, Eric.
And Nick. See you out there.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
How cool to have a chat to the boys from the Electorate, Josh and Nick. Really exciting to get out there and play music and hear music. I just finished what I did was 50 bands in May, which was really exciting. That was supposed to be my 50th or my treasure of my 50th birthday, getting out and see some bands and supporting live music. So it was really cool to do. So met some heap of people in amongst those times, and that wasn't enough, so we decided to have a 50th birthday as well last week. So that all went off very well. So very, very indulgent of me. But maybe the 50th year can be celebrated a lot more. I urge everyone to get out there and see a gig with me, and most importantly, get out there and see a band anywhere and tell me about it. That I guarantee you, seeing live music just makes it a better place, and that's the bottom line. So not only do the bands need you, venues need you, and the worlds need you. So let's get out there and do it. See you soon.